Sounds good. And I have a few questions that are going to be related to real estate just in a few minutes here. But first, I want
Okay.
to ask you a few questions about debt. I know you love that
Oh,
subject, and so do I,
yeah.
being with the owner of Golden Financial Services for over 20, no, almost 20 years. So let's jump in. The first one I want to ask you, what is the best way to pay off credit card debt? And I'm not talking about programs. Programs are, if you can't afford your debt, you can
Yeah.
always use a program like Accredited Debt Relief or Beyond Financial. There's a lot of good companies out there
Yeah.
that I could recommend. But aside from that, I know you have some really good ways to pay off debt on your own without using a program. What do you recommend?
Well, the first one's so simply, stupidly obvious. Make more money than you're spending, right? and,
Make more money. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
and, you know, and people don't get that. And I had clients that I told them this, and they're like, "Make more money than I'm spending? How does that work?" I said, "Well, you earn more after taxes than you're spending every month to pay your bills, and now you have some extra money that you can use to pay off your debt, right?" So the first thing is you got to get that under control. You got to have more money coming in than you have going out. Sometimes that requires you taking a second job. Sometimes that requires maybe you have to cancel some of those subscriptions to Hulu and Netflix and all that
Yeah.
other, right, whatever it is. um, there, for most people, there's not like there's maybe one, maybe two big things that they could do to reduce their debt, but it's generally a whole lot of little things that add up to the big things. But at the end of the day, you got to make more money than you're spending if you want to pay off your debt. So that's rule number one. Pretty simple, pretty
And,
hard for people to get. Go.
and to do what you're saying right now, you have to create a budget, right? So you can see exactly where your money's going out, and then you can try to lower things that you don't need to be spending money on, and then that naturally right there will lower your expenses and do what you're saying.
It will, and budget's really critical. It's also very difficult. It's like going on a diet and losing weight. Most people want to do it, but they
I know.
don't do it.
It's
We don't
so
have time.
true.
This interview is getting kind of long already, but I have this process I call budgeting for dummies. We'll get into that another day. But I want to just stick with your question, which is how do you pay off the debt? So first thing, you have more money coming in than going out. That's the first thing. Now I have excess cash flow, and then we just use a process called snowballing, which has been around forever, right? And basically, you just make a list of all your debts, and the way I don't care what the interest rate is. Generally, I just don't care what the interest rate is on the debt. What I care is how much the debt is, not the payment, the amount of the debt. So let's say I have a $20,000 car loan that goes to the top of my list, and then I have a $15,000 student loan, and then I have several credit cards that are several $1,000s, and you can see I'm kind of working my way down here. So I have this here. So I have this whole list of
Mhm.
debts. Maybe I owe 100 grand, right? Between the car loans and the student loans and the credit card debts and all this stuff. And I rank them biggest debt to smallest debt, right? And then alongside that, you just write the payments, the minimum payments for each one of those debts, right? Now, credit cards, if they put it on your statement now, if you make the minimum payment on a credit card, it's going to take you about 20 years to pay that sucker off, right? This is ridiculous, right? Because you're going to be buying
Yep.
more stuff on that credit card next month. You want those credit cards paid off every month, right? We want it
Oh
every
yeah.
month. Right. So the way we get to zero as quickly as we use the snowball method, which is, let's say I add up all those payments, and it comes to $2,000 a month for my car loan, my student loans, my credit cards, and all those minimum payments is $2,000 a month, right? Now, remember the first rule, I got to make more than I'm spending. So let's say I have $2,500 a month extra, right? And I pay my bills. I have $2,000 of bills. That means I have $5 more, right? Than I'm spending. So I'll take the $2,500 and I'll pay all the minimum payments except for that last payment, the lowest one. I'll pay the extra $500 towards it, right? So I pay the full 2,000 plus $500 towards the littlest payment, and I'll do that month after month until that payment's gone, right? And now that I don't have that minimum payment anymore, but I still have my $2,500. So now I'll apply the $2,500 to the second biggest payment, and then I'll pay that one off. Minimum payment's gone, but I still have my $2,500. And when you do that month after month after month, chipping away at those debts, snowballing what you're paying off, what would have taken you maybe 15 or 20 years to pay off, generally you can pay off in 10 to 20 months. right? Which is huge,
Love it.
right? And then by the way, we talked about habit. Once you get in the habit of doing that, making that $2,500 payment, once you paid off all those debts, first of all, you feel amazing, right? Because you're taking that stress off your back. Second of all, you stop wasting all that money on interest that you generally can't deduct. It's just a waste of money, right? But third of all, since you're in the habit of putting $2,500 somewhere, guess what? You can start saving and investing at $2,500 a month, right? And when I do this,
Yep.
right, you can look at this. Most people, it's a game changer. They'll, where they would have been at zero had they followed the minimum payment, right? If they followed the minimum payment, with my method, by the same time they would get to that place in their life, they might have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 saved up, right? And so that's the snowballing, and that's how we do it, right?
That's great. Yeah, I love snowballing. It's a great option to get out of debt fast.
It's really
All
simple. It
right,
takes
so
takes some discipline, but it can be done.
yep, this all takes discipline. Got to have discipline. So let
Yeah,
me ask you this. You talk about in your book as well, good debt versus bad debt. And then can you also give an explanation on how to use good debt?
yeah. So I'm going to say the name. Dave Ramsey says that all debt is bad. It's evil, right?
You
The, the
know,
the mortgage you have, the credit cards, and so on. Um, and I disagree with him, and I respect the man a lot. I love what he does. He does a lot of good for a lot of people, right? But I think he's got this one wrong, and he disparages people like me. Calls us the financial gurus because we have the good debt and the bad debt. But let me explain the difference, right? So bad debt is debt you use to buy things that you either consumed or go down in value, right? So I went on a trip to Europe. I spent $5,000. I'm back from Europe, and I still owe $5,000. You consumed it, right? You didn't literally swallow it, but it's gone, right? You basically um, uh, paid money today from things that that you're going to continue to pay for in the future, but it's over, right? You buy a car, right? I buy a car, it goes down in value. It just, it just, you either consumed it or that debt needs to go away. Right, we want that Dave Ramsey are on the same page here, right? Get that debt, pound it down, use snowballing, use win the lotto. I don't know what you do, but you got to make that debt go away, right? That's step 2 in our
right.
4-step process, right? But the other side of debt, I call good debt. And debt is, I like to say, debt is not another 4-letter word, even though it is, right? But debt is leverage, right? So remember the example I gave you just a few moments ago about real estate? So if the average price of real estate goes up 3% a year, that's fine. But if I only put 25% down on a property, I've leveraged my 3% 4 times, right? Because I put 25%
Yeah.
down. So I'm going to 4x the return. So good debt, which I call productive debt. They call reductive debt, bad debt, that debt that costs you money. Good debt, productive debt, this is what we talk about in the book, is debt that makes you money. So when I use money to buy real estate and I can leverage that so I can increase the actual rate of return on my investment. So instead of getting, say, 5%, cash on cash rate of return, I can now get a 15%. Same investment, didn't increase the risk of the investment. The underlying investment's exactly the same, but I tripled my return because I used the debt, right? So, and
Right.
if I'm going to invest in my business, well, if I'm going to invest in cocktail parties and going to dinner and, travel, that's one thing. But if I'm going to invest in a printing press or a vehicle that I can do more deliveries or whatever, if I'm investing in things that are going to make me money, do it, right? And so,
Absolutely.
right. So that's what I'm talking about: good debt, bad debt, productive debt, reductive debt, right? And so, how much bad debt should you have? Zero. How much debt should you have? As much as you can afford. And we got to put some safety nets in place. So, real estate, for example, what's the biggest risk of real estate? Not if the house burns down. It's not if well, the biggest risk is simply having a vacancy, right? And so you
Yeah.
want to, right? So you set aside additional reserves. We're going to increase your cash reserves, typically about 3 months, right? For every rental I have, so I have 3 months rent. And if I have 10 rentals, now I have 30 months rent. And if 10 rentals are going to be vacant for 3 months all at the same time, for not going to ever happen. So I have almost 3 years worth of rent protection if I have adequate reserves. So all little strategies like that. But yeah, it's in our book. I know it's in the book. Yeah, it's in the book.
Yeah.
In
Well,
the
we're
book.
going to jump into real estate now. So it's
Okay.
perfect timing here.
I love real estate. Yeah.
So if you don't know Randy Luebke, He's well known. I'll give you some of his credentials. He's a registered financial consultant and an independent fiduciary investment advisor with over 35 years of experience. Now, just for those of you who don't know, there's a very small percentage of financial advisors that are actually called independent fiduciary advisors. So of approximately 308,000 advisors in total in the United States, only 1% of them are independent fiduciary advisors. And Randy's amongst that 1%. So that's a pretty good credential right there. He's also a registered mortgage advisor, life insurance agent, real estate broker, mortgage broker, stock broker, and of course, the owner of Lifetime Paradigm,